welcome back to another lovely week of Team Huddle on the Poi and Soy podcast. I'm Jalen Holston. I usually am the captain of this segment, and along with me are my dear, dear friends and coaches, Jared Shirai, Keone McKeague, and Nolan Chang. Boys, how are we doing? How's the vibes?
I am doing great.
I know, as I said, this has been a great week. Cheers.
Oh, dear God.
Cheers,
well,
indeed.
I mean, yeah, we got some VNL updates, as we always do during this time, and then we're going to get into our positional series here. We're going to go through how all of us coach different positions in volleyball. There are some variances, but we do have a lot of similarities, given that we all kind of played together and have somewhat similar experiences. But as we always do, let's check in because, you know, some of my friends, I question if they're okay. You know what I mean? You got to check in on everybody. Nolan looks like he's on the brink of just his own sanity. So let's let you get that off your chest, buddy. You know, what's going down? How you doing? What's going on?
You know, June's always a busy month for club season. Especially now that I do girls and boys. It's the conclusion of both club seasons, and last week had practices with my girls team. That's going to be finishing up their last tournament starting this Thursday into Sunday, and then Sunday I'm going to be flying out right after that tournament to Utah for the boys junior national tournament hosted by USAV. Nowadays there is the AAU one that goes on in Florida, but my team, we're going to stick to the USAV one. This week is going to be jam-packed for me, and we are, you know, working on the fly, and I appreciate my brothers here that are working with all our schedules because it's a little bit of a whirlwind going on right now. I have practice tomorrow with my girls team, last one before the tournament. Then Wednesday I got my boys team, 18s. Thursday I got one last one with the boys as we prepare for that junior nationals. It's coming together. A lot of these boys, or half of these boys, mixed the match, so they haven't really played together. So this last 2 weeks have just been getting used to each other. There have been some high points and low points thus far in the practices. Appreciate my co-coach, who I think is running ahead for this junior national tournament, Trevor Lanzarata. He is running the helm right now. There is a boys practice that I think is just concluding right now, as I just got back from my flight this weekend. So we are going to go full tilt this week. And then first week of July 4th week, we're going to be hitting that tournament, hoping for the best. I think we have a promising team that can make some noise. Unfortunately, I will not be playing against Jared's team because he got that bid, so he's in the division higher.
You
So
already know, son.
good luck to Jared as well. But it's exciting times. I love the pressure, especially as a coach, because it kind of allows you to see a little more what your team can do. And under these bigger tournaments, this end of the year tournament, a lot is riding on it. Sometimes very emotional, sometimes very mental, but it's always a fun time.
It's prime time, baby. Let's put up or shut up. It's what you worked for all season. This is it. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. You ain't first,
Hell yeah,
you
brother.
last.
Exactly. That's exactly what we put in our kids' mentals right there. Jared, how's it going with you, my guy? Similar kind of vibes. You know, we got the club stuff rocking and rolling right now for you.
Yeah, I'm the same way with Nolan. Finishing up, we just actually did an in-house tournament yesterday morning with just the pro player teams. Our team kind of just took care of business the way we should have. I mean, we are the 18-1, so the last time we did it, they really wrecked house. This time, my two outside showed up a little late, but we started with 6 and still ended up. We played the 16s team. I mean, it was nothing. We played the 17s, and then we played Phil Lopez's team last. He has a 2s team, and we kind of handily took care of them. I mean, they have a great team there, just struggle and serve receive. But this coming week, kind of like Nolan, at Summer Soiree, my last practices for my boys and girls, then straight off to Soiree, then on Sunday, flying out in the morning, heading on to Salt Lake City, same thing, getting with the boys, and that's all it is.
If
It's
your
good.
coaches in these tournaments, come say hi to us.
Yeah, if you're
No, for real,
coaching,
though.
come
Say
find
hi.
us.
Maybe bring us a beer. Who knows?
Yeah, or come find us, and then we'll go get a beer after or something.
Just a whole can.
Yeah,
Just
just
roll,
bringing
just
you a
roll it
beer.
into the gym with a straw. Just You're doing great, Tom.
Unopened beer, so that once the last game ends, there you go.
Exactly.
There he is.
Didn't you know it's a dry state?
I heard we can still buy it there. We're gonna find out, aren't we? So
Yeah, so that's pretty much for me. It's kind of interesting though for the Salt Lake City trip. I still don't even know where the hell we're staying, so hopefully I have a.
Oh my
a
God.
place to stay.
Nice.
I got the flight, dude.
I
I got the
don't
flight.
either. I
You
need
said,
to ask my
hopefully I
director.
got a place to stay.
I got a flight.
I'll be there.
If not, Nolan, bro, I'm hitting you up.
I
Sleeping in
might
your
need you
room.
to pick me up from the airport. I'm getting it at midnight on Sunday evening.
No. There's a thing called an Uber. Yeah, we all good.
Right.
I think we're all Ubering. wherever
Just send
we're
me
going.
your bar location. I'll meet
Why
you.
is
Yeah.
Coach Jared sleeping outside of the gym?
Why do I hear pterodactyl noises?
No. That's only if we go out the night before, you know. That'll be
I
if
fully
day one is
expect-
really bad.
I fully expect at least one pterodactyl noise in Vegas, man.
Trust me, there probably will be. With the
Yeah.
amount that we'll probably have for the draft, you know, I think it'll be a good time. But yeah,
Let's
so
do it.
boys season almost done, girls season almost done, and then a week and a half straight into high school. So
No.
no break for anybody.
Nope.
Mhm.
That's how we roll around here on
Nope.
the coaches panel. Keone, how was your drunken league? How are we developing? Are we seeing progress? Is there
it's
we
definitely
getting it
it
done?
definitely has progressed.
Hell yeah.
There's some good and some bad from the last couple of weeks. Yeah, it's been a minute since I was on this one, so I think 2 weeks ago we played against a team that they are now the only team to have beaten us twice in this league. I don't know what it is. I was talking to some of the guys, and I was like, it just seems like, I don't know. One, they do play like their group, like they're really like starting group against us. So there is that. And two, it's just I don't know why, but they try extra hard against my team for some reason. So yeah, unfortunately, they timed it in a way where their best server was like opposite of me, so I would always be in the front row when he was serving. So he was tearing up the guys trying to pass, and they kind of had like a bad run of like over and over and over. And unfortunately, because our team is so like small now, especially after, you know, like I'd mentioned earlier on the pod where we kind of lost some people because I wasn't playing them and all that stuff. The rotation, I mean, is just about whatever I got is what I got. So,
You should have
Yeah.
just blocked the serve
oh man,
and see
you
if the ref calls it.
you know, and we'll probably get into this at some point, like in the pod, but like, I don't know if you've ever had one of those guys that just like, that irks you really, really, really hard on the
Oh.
league. Yeah. When I was playing,
It might
I'm
be
like,
on
there
this
was-
pod.
there was like, I don't know. It's like for me, like there's like an unwritten rule. I feel like when you're like playing, especially in this kind of league where it's like not really like a open or a competitive league, right? Like
Mhm.
I feel like there's a lot of unwritten rules. There's a few guys I know that can really play in this league that don't, you know, go very hard because they know it's like a bunch of novice, you know, players. But this guy took no F's serving it against my guys, knowing full well none of them played. So I was getting pretty irritated. And like me personally, I always serve him just because, I mean, he's their best guy. I don't like serving hard against like other, you know, people who clearly
You
don't
want to have
play.
a rally?
We've all
Yeah,
been there.
and like
You want to
everybody
have a
wants to
rally?
play. You know what I mean? And there's like one.
Yeah.
They had like one girl that I know for sure. Like if I really wanted to like score, I could just keep serving her, but I just didn't because that's not who I am as a competitor. So
Oh, that's who I am. I don't care.
You really
I'm
got
here-
under my
Here to
skin.
get dubs.
Equal rights. Once you're on that court,
But
equal
actually,
rights.
now that leads to this next week where we're in the middle of playoffs. We had our first playoff game this last Friday, and I just had that extra bit of motivation to just go a little bit harder on this team. So I felt kind of bad, and then went like on a long serving rally. And at the end of the game, the girl was just like, "So why aren't you playing in the open?" I was just like, I mean, because my shop wanted to make a team, and I just didn't want to like abandon them because I know if I don't play with my shop, they won't play at all. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of those like if I'm not playing, they're not gonna put together a team. Which I'm like, I just don't want to see that. Like, I want people to play volleyball.
Let's
I
have
want
some
them
fun,
to like
right?
go out. Yeah, exactly. Like go out and have fun, socialize, do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we won pretty handily. And we're heading into the next round of playoffs. So we got the semis coming up, and I'm just not gonna lie, I want to win. So I told them, I
Do
was
what
like,
must be done.
yeah, I told them I was
I'm
like,
gonna
it's
tell
gonna be a
you.
lot more cutthroat, and I'm gonna probably play like 60 or 70% as opposed to like 40 or 50 or 30 or whatever I've been playing this entire season.
Just
So
don't
I'm
sub
gonna tell you,
yourself
that's
out.
the only time I try. In all the leagues that
Yeah,
I play, it's when it's
yeah.
playoffs. That's the only time I try.
And you can
Other than that,
tell
it's
every
about
other
having
team, they
fun.
do the same thing. Like they bring in like some ringers that like I don't see all season, and then all of a sudden I see them on the last games or
Where
whatever.
do you guys play at?
Eva Beach, Mexico, the District
Oh,
Park gym.
okay.
Yeah. So that's why it's funny because it's just like every time like it gets ramped up a little bit more. So this next game, they're definitely coming after us because we beat them the last time we played them. So it'll be a fun one. And yeah, I mean, it's just been getting slowly but surely more competitive. So I'm glad, one thing I will say, shout out to my team. You guys have been playing really awesome volleyball lately. It actually looks like volleyball, which has been
Hey,
phenomenal.
that's a thing. Yeah, that's
What a good coach. That's a win. That
it's
sounds
a
the
real
like
thing,
coach
Brent.
got in there
It's a
and
real
made
we
thing.
some
start
We're
better
like-
than how you started the season. That is the way.
We're like one
Don't
of
let
the
anyone
few
tell you
Yes.
teams.
different.
I think that like we do like the full like pass, set, hit. Like most times it's just like over on one, over on two, and we're just like, all right, it's just straight ping pong. So I got to give them
Ping
their
pong.
props, and they definitely are like most improved for this year. So shout out
Right
to my
Hell
on.
team.
yeah. Hell
Nice,
yeah,
nice,
coach.
nice.
Way to go, Keone. Way to pull them together, bud. Proud of you. My man. We got into our summer stuff this week for the girls. So last week I had my 8th grade camp, and that went really well. A lot of, I think I had like 4 out of the 12 or 13 they were actually coming to my high school. So they were all doing well. But I was delightfully surprised with our incoming freshmen today. They were super loud, really trying to compete and get after it with each other. Already had 2 or 3 that were pulling for a kind of like we do the summer scrims with some of the other high schools. I know the coaches pretty well. So we're pulling some of them up for that on Thursday. So yeah, future's looking pretty bright for my girls program. I'll see if I can actually make a freshman team, but like that was just given how last season went and where our program is right now, and some of the shenanigans that have already happened in this off season, it was definitely just a delight to kind of get my girls back in the gym and see them trying to work hard and really listen and get after it a little bit. So that was just awesome to see this morning.
Right on.
So that's kind of where we're at. We got that for the rest of this week. They got a week off, and then we're back at it again that following. So they're going to have the 5 days a week. They're going weight room first, then they get in the gym. And they'll roll right into tryouts. So there really won't be any excuses if, push comes to shove. Like I get a lot of time to look at, girls and see what's going on. And then obviously tryout week is always tryout week. They can look great all summer. And then you have a terrible week of tryouts. I'm like, I can't justify, you know what I mean? Keeping a girl. Like, like you played
necessarily
great
work on
until it mattered. And
potential.
now I can't be
Yeah.
like, well, based on summer, because that's not how high school works. It's like, how did you do at tryouts? And this is the summer stuff is there to help you get ready for it. So, but yeah, so that's how it's going for me, at least. Boys isn't quite kicking off quite yet for club stuff. They get a break in July, and then we'll get back after with the open gyms and whatnot. We'll have, tryouts in September and all that, and we'll kind of see how that goes. But it's super exciting times in volleyball. Speaking of, the USA boys are back at it again, getting some dub skis under their belts. I know the women also had a pretty good week too. They were able to fend off Brazil in 3, which was obviously that's always just the golden match to watch, right? And I believe we had Serbia, and that was a 3-1 win. Then we came back, we 3-0'd China. We also this most recent week.
That's when we lost to Japan.
Yeah, they did. They did lose to Japan. That was a wild match, the Brazil Japan
that was
match. I was not surprised because I don't think Brazil had full tilt, full team on. You know what I mean? But still, it's like you still expect them to win the game at the end of the day, especially if it goes 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was phenomenal to watch this week, at least for me. That was a good surprise. But our USA boys took down Iran 3-0. That was a really clean, classy game from the United States, I would say. And then obviously Poland is always an issue. I don't care what lineup they have. That team, that program is just phenomenal at volleyball. And we were able to pull off another great win. And that says a lot. It was a clean sweep, tight sets. Given it's Poland, right? We're not going to roll Poland, but very, very tight game to watch. So, Jared, I'll throw it over to you. I know you're probably you're fairly well versed on the things with the VNL, but which game for you, from the men's perspective, was the most impressive this week between Iran and Poland?
I mean, you kind of talked on Poland, but I would say it's more for me. I think it's Iran. Because Iran didn't I'm looking at their match statistics and everything, and they used their other setter. They didn't really play, but Iran really surprises a lot of teams when you play them.
Yeah,
like from their pins, they have big middles, and the way that the U.S. was just kind of able to handle them in all lanes of the court. I mean, from the outsides to the middles to the right side of the court. Taylor Averill had 13 points. He had 10 kills. He had 10 attack points, which is kind of crazy for a middle.
Yeah.
It just goes to show as well. Micah does an amazing job of finding his middles and creating lanes for them. The way they especially at the game nowadays, where you have the separation, running the different routes, the pop routes, the fades, just the little different things. I think Taylor Averill, knowing that he's a small middle, just like David Smith is, and those are the two middles that played in this game, they really find opportunities and ways to score in kind of unconventional ways. I watched, I think it was that game or the other game that Smith played, where at one point he wasn't even transitioning. He stood at the net and literally took a set from Micah from 7 feet off and just turned and railed a ball. I mean, he got dug, but at the same time, it's they're just trying to find different ways to score, trying to find different ways to keep everybody involved, and not just leaning on the Del Falcos and Matt Anderson and just being pin heavy as we used to be. So, like you said, I think you put it perfect. Where this is the deepest middle group that we've had, and I think they're utilizing it to make they're going to make his job so hard when they have to cut it down to maybe only 3 middles. Who do you leave out? Because I think each and every one of them are playing amazing. I mean, you got Max Holt back, which is supposed to be a lock, but I mean, with the way Averill Smith and Jendrick have been playing, it's kind of crazy, because I think they've been outshining him in that regard as well. So but the season's still young, so and we still got time to figure all that out. But it's a good problem to have. 6'5", I want to say
ish, in there,
6'5" ish. I don't know, Nolan. Mm-hmm. He beat up on you guys in Hawaii. How tall was he?
I don't know. I was just happy to be there.
I couldn't see anything.
I got in there to serve a little bit. I was happy to be there. They were like, "Oh, you local?" I was like, "No, I'm just an overweight Asian guy."
Oh, never mind. He's 6'7". He's 6'7", actually.
You were like, well, from the bench, he looked pretty tall.
It was like he was around the same height.
My depth perception's not great.
Around here,
Team USA says he's 6'7", so
6'7". All right, bet.
It's from the crowd, he was about yay big. So
I mean, and this is the crazy thing with Taylor Averill, though. I mean, he was a pin that transitioned to be a middle, and just exploded with it when college, and to put it where he is now and at a national team level, it's just phenomenal in the things that he does. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
For me, I think I liked Poland's match, but I think for me it was Iran. I think that was the one kind of thing.
All right. Nolan, which match to you kind of took the cake? Which one you felt was more impressive from Team USA men's, at least?
I enjoyed the Poland game. In contrary to, I guess, how Iran went, I feel like Poland was much more of a pin-heavy game. I know TJ DeFalco went off, and I think that connection between Christensen and DeFalco is looking really nice, because that is some some quick pin sets that he's running out there. And once again, not putting down Micah Ma'a, but Micah Christensen kind of just put on another masterclass of how you're supposed to run your offense, especially when you're scrambling and off center of gravity, and his hands are just, I don't know, crafted by God himself or something. But he was running everywhere. I think there was one rally that I talked to you guys about where, because he was scrambling so much, he was blocking out of the middle, then he blocked on the left side, and it didn't end up going in their point. But that's what professional players do. They make something happen out of nothing. Russell had another great game there. I wanted to say, like, for a 36-year-old, Matt Anderson is still just one of those guys you just can't sit for too much longer, right?
Calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah, he doesn't have the same lift he did when he was a young guy, but his ability to kind of see the court, and you can tell when he swings, whether it's his serve or it's off the pin, he goes for the long ball. DeFalco, you can still see is that young guy who's trying to just pound the ball straight down whenever he gets the opportunity. But Matt Anderson, like Jared just said, calm, cool, and collected. He takes those deep swings off the hands. He finds that back line perfectly. And I think the 3-0 was kind of a definition of what we just kind of mentioned. So I do love what I saw there. I believe they used Dendrick and Holt for that one. And, if the connection continues to work well with all those guys, and I was mentioning to Jalen earlier, that's how you run it quick out of the middle. I need to show my boys because, these high school kids, they wait for that ball to hit its peak and then come back down before they take that swing. A real middle is still hitting it as the ball's going up in the air. And I masterclass once again.
Yeah, absolute masterclass. Keone, which match for you out of the couple we got here between, Poland, Iran, which one was more impressive?
I mean, I'm with Jared. I think the Iran victory was pretty. I mean, one, obviously they handled them pretty, not, I wouldn't say easily, but it was obviously a little in favor of them for the entire match. But on top of that, I was going to say the exact same thing Jared said about the middle, like rotation being so deep. Avril, I mean, like, now hearing what Jared said about him being a former pin that could kind of, transition there to the middle, like it makes a lot of sense why he was able to kind of get the looks that he was getting. Because even him coming out the back row in some of those plays for Iran against Iran, I was like, man, this dude can fly. But yeah, I mean, I think shout out to Eric Shoji once again, like this dude. It's like I know they're gonna have to eventually replace him. Right. Obviously, that'll happen at a certain time. But it's going to be a minute before they find that person that can do just about everything that he did. Because I think there was one that I seen him just dive off to the right side. One hand, perfect set over to the opposite side of the net. And they just put it away. And I'm just sitting there like, this dude just, I don't know what it is. He just got magic. Every time he touches the ball, it's like perfectly placed. So that is definitely one thing. No wasted movement with him. So I think that's incredible to see on the court. And obviously, Micah Christensen doing just Micah Christensen things. Like, I think Nolan said it perfectly. Like, his hands look like they were literally crafted for this. Like, it's insane when you watch how smoothly the ball goes from, like, sometimes it almost looks like his hands aren't there. That's how smooth the ball moves. Like, it's like if you just erased his whole body from there, the ball would still move. Like, naturally, yeah, just
Jedi
naturally
mind
that
trick
way.
its way out to the bits.
It's insane to me, man. But yeah,
This is not
I mean,
the block you're looking for.
but yeah, I mean, they played phenomenally against Iran, so shout out to them for 3-0ing them. So crazy.
Yeah. I will say I was very impressed with the performance against Iran. But I have to pick the Poland match because I think power wise that's just way more impressive to 3-0 Poland. Like I think historically at a minimum we've only gone 4. So I think it says a lot about where our team is right now. Kind of intermixing our lineup as well. I believe that was a J-ski match, and I think who was our other pin in that one? Jogging my memory here. It might have been.
I'm looking.
But
Was
I think it was TJ.
yeah,
It's the Falco and Russell.
Follow and Russell, excuse me. So again, more of our traditional lineup there to get into
Yeah,
that
it was
game.
a very traditional Maxwell
But
Holt.
still, yeah, because if Max Holt, you said Jendrick was the other middle, right? If I'm
Jendrick.
remembering correctly. Yeah, so like we tend to do that against kind of those Serbian, the Poland, Russia. We have that big lineup with Jendrick and Holt if we need to match up that way. And against a faster team, we tend to always go with Dave Smith, Taylor Averill, those quicker guys, and they match up really well, and they both work, and we both win with them. So it's one of those things where I agree with Jared. Like, how do you trim that down? Like, do you just take 4 middles and maybe you only roll with like 3 outsides? Do you like, you know what I mean? Do you keep 4 outsides and only rock 3 middles? Like when you get down
if they're only
to
holding
it,
Shoji, then I think you're kind of more allowed to roll with 4 middles, unless you're taking 2 liberos with you.
I mean, there's a world where like TJ plays a libero. I mean, he threw him at right side for one
TJ
match
on the right side.
He can do it all.
Give
I mean,
Anderson
that was
a
last
I
break.
year.
love the Falco's pin. I mean, not pin. His bick. I don't know why.
I do.
I feel like he runs that so fluidly.
Very Taylor reminiscent, that big, the way that TJ can do it. The bounce and the lift that he gets on that ball is insane. But again, I mean, Aaron Russell being back is, I will say it till I'm blue in the face. If he is there, in last Olympic cycle, we medal, and it's not a question. I think his presence, his serve receive, his just consistency like that of Matt Anderson, his time in professional play has really, really developed his cycle. Even more so than when he made his splash at the Rio Olympics in his first cycle with us. There was always kind of that high end to that kid, and I felt like now we're really seeing the dividends of that from John Sproul playing him so early.
Jalen and Jared, who is your ideal 7? If this is like this is it. This is single elimination. What's your ideal 7?
Just as a rotation, or just like you want to go the whole roster? Because like my whole roster would be different.
No.
If I'm talking a singular 7, I'd have to ask you who we're playing.
You need it most. Go.
Who we
right
playing?
now as a
Right
current?
Now. Who we
as
playing?
A current right now?
Because that
I think
changes
it'd be,
for me a lot.
If we could go back and play Brazil again, who are you putting on the court?
Like in last Olympic cycle, we could play Brazil again. Okay. Well, Mike is going to dish. Probably going Aaron
libero,
TJ.
Obviously.
Eric's libero because there's no one else.
Anderson at opposite.
Andy, so Anderson at opposite. I would get spicy and probably go Averill Holt in the middle. Yeah, because I think Averill can keep up with the speed. Holt is always great lateral movement, and he can match up well with what is the other one that plays with Bruno from Brazil? Marcus or
Lucas?
Something like Lucas, yeah. So he takes on Lucas pretty well.
You need the length.
So you need somebody to match him, and then you need speed for the other middles and to get to Lucarelli and their pins from Averill. So I would roll with that. Like I said, TJ and Russell are my outsides. And that probably would be it. And if I could do a serve sub, I might just throw Jake Haynes in there. I think his serve's gotten to from what I've seen, I think that's an okay shout to say, hey, Jake, go rip some balls and try to get us into some favorable situations.
I'm right there with you.
Right on.
The only hard part for me is like with Holt just coming back off the injury.
Yeah.
And the way that everybody's been playing, like we're going current right now. I don't know. I feel like Jendrick has a little bit more of a edge right now, at least. But I know traditionally you put Max Holt in a sink or swim situation, like he'll come out swimming for you. So
yeah,
I mean that's for me. That's if I'm living and dying by a game, I'm trusting Max Holt because of the experience and everything, and that's what he's there for. Like literally, it was Dave Lee, then it was him, right? And now he's where the Dave Lee is, and now he's supposed to be here. Everybody else is supposed to be here, and I think coming off the injury, that'll be the better look in honesty, but. It's hard to rotate those middles because even Dave Smith, he's been coming up with some big like close blocks, and then he's just been shutting it down, getting from pin to pin, and being available regardless.
Veteran, right?
Yeah.
Serving as well, right?
But the other part is Avrill's serve, the hybrid that he has is just ridiculous. Like that's the one thing that I give him a lot of props for because you don't really see it on the men's side of the game that type of hybrid.
Exactly.
So
it causes a lot of disruption. Puts us in a lot of favorable situations. But yeah, so I think the Poland match again for me, definitely the one that was more impressive. Also very happy that our women were able to 3-0 Brazil, showing dominance yet again. Very clean game. A lot of our young girls got in there. I mean, Jordan Thompson, like, just like if she's in the game, the other team might as well just like forfeit, man. Because if she gets the ball, it's not. Like, it's just not fair what she's doing to these other women across the net, bro. Athletically, when she gets a hold of a ball or she gets what like the angle that she wants, like it's just a point. Like there's no, you just don't even stand on the court. Like it's just not worth it, bro. It was also good to see Micah Hancock kind of get back in the rotation too. I do like her a lot, especially from the gold medal cycle that we had last Olympics. So. But yeah, that's it for VNL. But let's get into
I
the
have
positional
one VNL
series
that you missed.
Which one?
One VNL that you missed. Japan finally beating Brazil.
That one was a dynasty waiting to happen.
That was a banger.
Yes.
Like, go watch that on
Japan's
YouTube
top right now of the
yeah,
ranks,
they are. But go watch that match. I rewatched it and rewatched it. I was like, dude, that was a match.
Japan represent.
And Japan's like everybody that I've talked to about the VNL, it's like, dude, have you seen Japan? That's the first thing that they talk about.
They're
Not
doing
about
real life
anything.
IQ. It's not even role play. They're just doing it. You know what I mean? Like this is the anime. It's coming to life right now before our eyes.
IQ has such a chokehold on my players. It's ridiculous. They start talking like, oh, hi. I was like, shut up. You're white. Shut up. Go Masai, coach. Shut up.
But yeah, I want to talk, I just wanted to shout out the Japan game because like that was one of the only matches that really stood out in my eyes this past this past cycle or this week 2.
I would wholeheartedly agree. The only other one besides that phenomenal, can you even call it an upset? I don't know. I just say it was just a great match because Japan's been Japan this whole time. And Brazil's been doing a lot of experimenting. Like I think that was one of the first games Lucas was even back. And then Bruno's been in and out. Lucarelli, I think, is the only consistent piece that's been there every single match, from what I can understand from Brazil's standpoint. So, but I mean, hey, you fuck around and find out. To be honest, like I mean, you got that's it, right? All I gotta say about Brazil. Like I don't know if. Like, is that a thing? Like, is Brazil at a point now where their somewhat unearned glorification and respect is now getting exposed a little bit? You know what I mean? Because, like, we came out and did our thing. They've always had a hold on us. Japan finally getting that 5-set W. And, you can say, hey, they're not playing their best players, but, like, back in the day, even Brazil's second and thirds could probably go and 3-0 a lot of teams. So is Brazil in a state now where maybe we're giving them a lot of credit that they don't quite deserve in recent times? Just throwing it out there, guys. Just throwing it out there. But yeah, moving right along to our positional series, as I'm going to call it. We're going to go and pick a position in volleyball. We're starting with the outside hitter position, whether that's 01, 02. Both kind of have similar jobs, but we'll get into that as we go. And we're going to go through how all of us kind of coach and develop that position at various levels. We can just, probably just stick to let's say high school to college, because there's some kind of overlaps between those two. And then, keeps the show nice and tight. You know what I mean? Got to keep the ship running real close and efficient here. So Keone, I know you're doing beer
Thank
leagues.
you for starting with me.
It's post-college. But what things have maybe you tried to teach to your outside hitters to try to...
I was just like...
As
you were explaining this, I was like, I hope you start with me, because if we go through everybody else's coaching tips and then get to me... I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I mean, for this league, there wasn't a ton of coaching. I'll kind of harken it back to... the high school team that I did coach, probably one of the most talented outsides I've seen in person, just from just a pure talent skill level, as opposed to just, being an outside of out the gym jumper or any of that. Shout out to him is Kaimi Guerrero, man. He has one of the smartest swings like I've ever seen in my entire life. Like anything that he does It's just there's so much intentionality to it, and that's something that I remember. I brought the team along with Katrina to like one of the open gyms. He was there playing, and obviously, if you're watching him, he looks a little slower. You know, he was obviously a little older. He's not jumping crazy high, but he still gets up and he still, he still does his thing. But the moment he started just like turning it on, like initially he did that thing which he always likes to do, especially in ping pong, where he's hitting with his left hand, and then
And then all of a sudden,
everybody's like, oh, he's left-handed. He's not that. It's like, oh no, that's his offhand.
no.
He's just practicing.
He's having fun
with the thing. Yeah, exactly. So he was doing a lot of that, and then the moment the starts getting a little more intense, he starts turning it up, and he's just off the hands, over the block, like down the line, across the court. Like he's just getting it to the spots where he needs to get it to, and that was something that they were super impressed by, and that was something that stuck out to them. So for me, I was like, it was good to know that, like, okay, I bring them here specifically to see them watch people play, and they get to see a guy like him do his thing, and like get to see like the things that I saw when I was watching him play. So like I said, it's one of those things that I preach for the entire year. Like you're gonna go out, you're young, you're at your like kind of like getting there to your peak athleticism, and you're gonna think like, I'm gonna go out there and just bang away at balls, and you want to like hit super hard, and you want the highlight like bounce play and all these sorts of things. But yeah, I just told them, I was like, sometimes like the best hitters, like that guy right there, it's just about the perfect placement of the ball and being able to manipulate the ball in a way where if it's, backspin, forward spin, whatever it might be, whether it's over the block, whether it's a tip, like there's so many different things that you're doing in the air when you're making your decisions, and just scouting the court. That's like another like huge thing that he likes to do. And I just told him, like, that right there is volleyball. Like, it's not the go up and try to hit your hardest on a block. Like, yes, you're going to have moments where you have an open net, and that's 100% the time you should be doing that. But when you're going up against these blocks and you're getting into kind of like these, for lack of a better term, like pissing matches, I guess, with the guy on the other side of the net, I mean, eventually it's going to get to a point where, they'll read you, you'll read them. And those, super hard, like I'm trying to bang away at the ball hits don't really make sense anymore. So yeah, that was one thing I definitely stuck to, like having the vision and having the forthright, like keeping composed enough to actually aim where you're hitting, and not just like be trying to bang away all the time. And I mean, I tell you not, it made such a huge difference watching these kids like go from like, okay, coach, watch this, to like, making the play, then turning around and just like shaking hands with the teammates and getting excited for the fact that they got the point, as opposed to like, look how hard I can hit. So, yeah, from the most base level of like coaching, which is where I was at, that to me is like something I always, even with this team now, like when we're playing and it's like long rallies, and like I know they're so tempted to like hit, because I know they want to hit. None of these guys really played actually, not really, no, none of them played volleyball before in any organized way or fashion. So like the temptation is there to like hit like really hard when you get the chance to. And I just tell them, like, if they're making a rally or we're like cutting it close, like just get the ball in, like make the smart play, aim for the large part of the court, aim for a guy that you think's not, the greatest passer or whatever it might be. Like those are the things like I want them to do, as opposed to like just banging away at the ball and hitting it against the back wall. Like, trust me, there is a lot of that. So, yeah, I mean, from the base level, that's the kind of stuff I teach. So moving over to the next guys.
Yeah. Absolutely nailed it. Oh, man. Mr. Shirai, when you get a hold of an outside and there's things that you want to focus on, like what are some things that you look for first when it comes to that position?
I look for, well, size is never an issue, because like I played outside in college. Like it doesn't matter.
It should never be an issue nor an excuse.
I was like, look at Keone talked about Emi. Emi's not the tallest person, barely 5'11", maybe 6 feet if you stretch him a little bit or put him in good shoes. I grew up playing against Emi. Like literally, we're same age. So I've watched him do it at all levels, from high school to everything. And the one thing I say is ball control. You look for the kids with the best ball control, because if there's anything you want from your outsides, anything you want from anything that has to do with serve receive, you want them to be able to pass the ball. You want them to be the most skilled in their platform, the most confident there. And so when I'm
Jared,
looking at my
let
team,
me ask you really quickly, because
okay,
this is what I tell my outsides. In the big scheme of volleyball, outsides are the better serve receivers than the liberos, and I tell them that from day one. I was like, you need to be the best, because everyone's gonna try to avoid the libero for whatever reason, but you need to be the best serve receiver, because when it's just the libero out there, who's right on the left and right of them? Your outsides. And I tell
yep.
them every single time, you need to be the best serve receiver. People think it's always the libero. Nope, it's you.
Oh no, you're 100% right. As an outside, like when we're grabbing outsides, that's what I'm looking for platform wise. And then as I'm picking outsides, we literally tell them, from when we were in high school to the collegiate level when we were at Hope, it was, you have to pass like a 2.2. We stat, like, we'll practice, we'll keep stats. You got to pass a 2.2. You got to be passing at least above a 2 to even be considered as an outside. I mean, like, the amount of people that you're going to find that can serve a ball, and if you're a liability, that's even worse. The club level, it's a little harder, so that's why you go to the 3, 4, 5 man serve receives, or the 4 man receive. Use your right side as a capable passer, which we do in very many, and we did it in college. But at the same time, if I'm looking at my outside, you got to serve receive first. um and the hitting part is just everything after that,
Yeah.
because you can teach that. The one thing I'll say as far as the hitting wise goes, like Keone said, we get away from the bouncing of things. I got to meet a German national team guy, Marcus Pop. He's older, and he came to one of our practices, because Ed Chun knew him, and he was like, "Oh, bounce in warmups for the girls. Everybody, if you want to play in national and at the next level, this is where you're hitting the ball." He set up a cones last 5 feet of the court. And since from that moment, I mean, I still love to bounce at that age when I met him. But at the same time, it's like when I got to college, when I got to do a lot of different things, or play on the VNL or the VLA, sorry, not the VNL, but playing the
Oh, the
VLA.
He was like,
whole, my
damn,
man.
Jared.
Hey, you
Oh,
already know,
jeez,
man. I would
Oh,
have I would have got you tickets. I would have
coming,
got you tickets.
coming
Calling
for
me out,
service.
I mean, that's literally what it came down to, like hitting the last 5 feet of the court. And I tell my hitters that all the time. Anybody can bounce a ball, but you got to imagine, if you're an 18-1s team, like I'll take my 18-1s right now. You're an 18-1s team. The block is just as big on the other side. We play Balboa, and they're reaching across at least 3, 4, 5 inches across the
Yep.
net, and so you got to be swinging high, flat, and deep. And just like I said, the hitting part easy to teach, but if I'm picking an outside, it's all about your ball control. It's all
yeah.
about that mindset of, if you want to be an outside at any level, you need to be great in serve receive. You don't got to
Yep.
be amazing at it. You just have to be consistent. And we changed the way that we grade. Um, a 3 is anywhere in the 3 zone. Like,
Yep.
we're giving you a 10 by 10 zone,
I did the
and
same
maybe
exact
even
thing. I
on
love
like the
that.
10 foot line, 12 foot line. Like, we'll give you a little bit if you're giving height, because we're not asking you to be perfect. We just want to give a good passable ball so hitters can give a good hittable ball. And so if we're holding the setters to that standard of, hey, I just need hittable, I just need a passable ball that we can set a ball somewhere. And so I think that's the way I've looked at outsides, and it's changed from when I started playing to now. But I mean, every year I find something different. Me and Nolan, we've had conversations about that zone 3 box,
Yep.
and
Yep. And it
and if
changed a
you
lot for my
and
team.
honestly,
Absolutely.
you want to learn something amazing about it. I'm not trying to plug for them, but Gold Medal Square, Henry has a subscription. We watch the videos. We take a lot of the stats, and it's statted from all different levels, from high school, club, college, international, from the highest to the lowest levels. It's taught because there's statistics behind it. So it's not like somebody's just saying, "Hey, play in my system." No, it's a statistically proven stat of the things that happen. And so we've been using a lot of Gold Medal Square to teach our outsides.
Yeah.
He's over here dropping
No.
bombs.
Great resource. Definitely hit that up if you feel like you're interested, or you're a coach that maybe is at a club, and see if you can talk to your directors, get you that subscription. I know I do. We have that at Crossfire, and we also have the Art of Coaching Volleyball, which has a lot of good stuff in there from Karch Karai and several others and whatnot. But yeah, so Nolan, how do you go about teaching your outsides at your various club levels, and like things that you would say that translate all the way up? Because I that was one of my gripes with club in general, like before I really got into the world of it. It still kind of is like that, but I don't run it that way for my boys. Is that for some reason, at least on my girls' side, they at the club level, they teach skills that don't trickle down as much, because volleyball is a weird sport where, as compared to basketball, when I teach you how to do a jump shot somewhat properly in basketball, that skill translates all the way up to the professional level. There are skills in volleyball that you can't just jump to at the club level and expect your girls to do when they don't have a technical, foundation down until you can progress forward. It's a very, very weird and unique sport in that aspect. And the same thing, like even if you want to compare it to soccer, like you learn how to kick, you learn how to dribble, like all those things always trickle up, and like you can teach some advanced stuff and it'll still kind of work its way backwards, like that kind of thing. But like,
that's why we're more athletic than soccer players.
Right. But that thing doesn't trickle down.
I'm not going to say that for this pod.
And that's where and that's where my disconnect always comes, though, between my high school world and the club world, is because like I have to like re-engineer just basics to people, and I'm like, what are we doing here? So anyway, but like back to you, Nolan. How do you get your outsides going? What are you looking for? Like all that stuff, outsides, the big guns, the superstars.
I love a whole pod of just
I love everything that Jared said so far. And I'm not going to hark too much on the things that Jared covered, because it's true. If I'm
cool,
if
I
I'm
said
looking
stuff too. Yeah, I went first, but whatever.
Yanni had a great point as well with the saying, stuff.
This man.
No, honestly, when you go into tryouts for club, and I'm a good handful of years removed from high school team volleyball, outside of club, right? High school team, it's a lot of it is you take what you can get. You got someone who can hit a ball well. You kind of overlook the lapses that they have in their game, and that it's an unfortunate thing, but sometimes it's really dependent on the pool that you get.
Right.
When it comes to club, you get these guys who love the game and will come from different zip codes to try out for your club, and you try to pick the best roster possible. And Jared has absolute great points. Serve receive is literally the golden standard for what I love to see in an outside, because I can teach you how to hit a ball in the court. Serve receive, that takes, I don't want to just speak for my area, but it takes at least a year or more to make someone great at or good at serve receive. And you don't want to be stuck with kind of, bits and ends when it comes to your roster, especially when you go into club season, when you think you have a great team, and then when push comes to shove, you see them on the court when it comes to adversity and someone's serving well at you guys, and all of a sudden everything starts to crumble. But for serve receive, yeah, absolutely. He said it best, and he told me when we were meeting at one of the tournaments exactly that zone 3 kind of serve area. Like if you have a serviceable setter, as long as someone can get them in that 10 by 10 square of the area 3, they can run any offense you need. And you get a good serve receive there, your setter's going to do the rest of the job. So I do like to kind of focus a little more on the hitting part. And one of the biggest things I tell my hitters is I don't need a safe hit, I need a smart hit. I don't want you to just put the ball on the court because you're scared of what might happen and there's a big block. Especially in club, you get a big athletic outside on your team, there's just as big athletic blocker on the other side of the net. So I don't need you to bang the ball. A ball on the 10-foot line is just as much as the ball on the back 10-foot line. So I usually, whenever we go to hitting, I'll put cones out. Main areas I look at, area 1, area 5, and that tee shot. And I call it the tee shot because it's where the 10-foot line intersects the sideline. These are your main 3 swings I want you to look at. when you need to get a ball in the court, you aim for the 1 and the 5. Because why? You send it to the 1, setter's back there most of the time. You can get them a little out of system, have a second libero take the second ball. You put it in the 5. Now you have the middle back in your libero trying to scramble to see, okay, am I taking this ball? Are you taking this ball? If it's a deep shot, they got to do that crossover to figure out who's going to take it. And then sometimes it creates a little bit of a lapse in defense. For the tee shot, I teach my outsides. Hey, your setter's not perfect. If they throw you an inside ball, I need you to learn how to bring your feet into where the ball and meet it. Because if you can hit that tee shot on a consistent basis on an inside set, that is going to be a golden swing for you, no matter what. Even if the libero steps in there and is able to dig it up, now you're pressuring the libero to be something more than they typically are sometimes, especially at club level. So for hitting wise, it's always about them understanding those areas that they need to swing at to make a smart shot. And a lot of people think smart shots like, oh, I'm going to tip over the block. Like, no, if they're a good defensive team, that's going to be easy for them to pick up and they can run a perfect offense out of it. You want to make them a little decombobulated, make them move around, make them talk to each other, because communication, especially on the boys level, girls teams, they love to talk. They will say everything and anything they need to in order for the ball to stay up in the air. For boys, it's all their ego. So if you get that boys team to understand that they need to communicate to the man next to them on the court, it's going to be a much different game. But yeah, I mean, outside wise, understanding these things, because we mentioned it, TJ DeFalco on the national team, he's kind of young still. He still wants to bounce that ball. And I understand it. I was an outside. I was that guy. I would love to bounce a ball if the ball had the opportunity for me to swing like that. But there's bigger things in the game of volleyball. And I will go to my grave saying this, and I don't care if there's any other athlete, sports person out there who's going to say otherwise. Volleyball is the hardest technical sport in the world. And I don't care what you say. Not only do you have to understand the coordination to play it, everything is high speed. A lot of people say baseball, but there's a lot of sit-in. You see what the pitcher's doing. You see what the fielders are doing. It's different compared to volleyball, where you have to make a decision in the split second that you get the ball, and all of a sudden a perfect offense has to run out of it. So for me, rolling off of Jared,
so many fights at work. So many fights at work.
Not just at work.
So many fights at work.
In life.
Not just at work, guys.
That specific one, the basketball one, like the baseball one, I've had so many fights at work over that one.
Like,
Yeah,
I
so
have
we're
nothing
not
against
arguing
baseball players.
athleticism.
Please
We're
don't
talking
get me.
technical.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that's a very big
technicality.
You
distinction.
guys are something different, being able to hit a 100-mile-per-hour ball at least into the park so that you can get something going. But for volleyball is moving at, high level, maybe 80, 90 miles an hour, depending on who's hitting that ball and you're on the receiving end. It's a completely different game. And I just think that the boys need to understand, and this is a very universal statement from coaches all around the country, all around the world, better the ball. You don't need to do something great with the ball, but you need to better what you just received, whether that's the passer, whether that's the setter, whether that's the hitter. And if you understand that and you take your ego out of it, you're going to be a phenomenal player, because you do the dirty work of learning how to do the small things that people don't like to put on stat sheets and coaches see. You're going to be a high
Be
above
the garbage
all the rest.
man.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be a garbage man, but they're the highest paid people.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
That's how we put it.
So be the garbage man. Understand that sometimes you gotta collect it.
So Jordan Poole's the greatest one.
Check out after the buzzer, everybody.
So I have one thing before I do have to go, because I actually have to go play in a game right now.
Oh, you're good.
I will play at 9:30. I have one thing that when you were talking about technicality wise of things, Jalen.
Yeah.
The one fundamental thing that I love to teach, as far as an outside goes, is technique wise, is how to manipulate your platform, having an early platform. You were talking a little more about technique stuff before Nolan, and I think it's just about, especially in serve receive, having that early hands out, your early angles, creating an angle first, and then moving your feet after, because you have to use the quickest reactionary motion, which is your hands first, and then your feet can follow. So for me,
clip that
as a
and
passer,
send that to my team.
like that's what I worked on a lot. Now I'm just old and lazy, and trust me, platform
And
is
because
great.
you know what you can do
I
outside
know
your
what I'm
frame
doing.
every
Like,
time.
I understand my body. I've been doing it for over 20 years. Like, that's something that I know my body can do. As I'm
Yeah.
teaching at a young level, I'm literally telling them on a serving machine, start with your plans out, create the early angle, let the ball, let your platform do the work, and that's all it is for me. But
Yeah.
I mean,
dude,
rolling
I
off of
would.
that really quickly before Jared takes off, that's a big thing. And that's the separation between high level volleyball, professional, college, whatever you want to look at, is you don't need to emulate what those guys are doing, because they, like Jared said, they know their body. They know the speed of the game. Sometimes you can take those plays off where you're a little lazier and you take the ball outside your frame, but your body or muscle memorized knows exactly the angle you need to drop into it. For you high school guys still growing into the game, learning these high speed kind of tells, learn the basics, learn the fundamentals, learn what makes a good pass before you kind of move on to that stuff. Because a coach, when they look at you, they're not looking for what highlight plays you can do on a whim. They look for the big things that you can do on a consistent basis.
Correct. 100%. Well said, gentlemen. Well said.
Thank you, guys. Sorry, Jay. I'm gonna
Oh, you're
listen to
good.
it. I promise.
Deuces, brother.
I'll
Get
catch
out
you
I
of
guys
was
here.
just
later.
like,
I know. I'll see you guys later. Shoots.
Later, Jared.
Later, boys.
Oh, man.
later.
As far as outsides are concerned, from my end, I do agree on a lot of. We have again, like I said at the top of the pod here, a lot of things I do line up with that. I don't teach the zone 3 box so much. I do have a very specific like target that I want them to hit when it comes to serve receive, mainly because I have a philosophy, at least when we teach
I would
it,
say
is
in defense of what we and Jared were talking about,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that we teach that from the get go, but
No.
we look at it as sometimes a team who can't just necessarily put it right on the setter's head as you should
Yeah.
as a good passer. But if you have that team that does struggle with that, you open up the target for them and it allows them to breathe a little more. You know, you don't necessarily want them to be like pinpoint every single time. If you can give something in that area, but that is more of if you have that team that
This is that layering stuff.
if you
that we were
can't
talking
get
about
to
earlier.
exactly
Yeah.
a perfect pass on a consistent, but then you kind of look at it in the bigger target for them to work with.
You guys
But
listening?
continue.
And speaking of layers, like
Listen.
I do require that. Like I want you to aim. Like I have a philosophy of aim small, miss small. So if I'm
that.
telling you I want
love
you to
that.
hit this very specific spot and you miss by 10 feet, I'm not gonna go over my head if it's 30 feet high and 5 feet off the net and it's not exactly on the setter spot. You know what I mean? You still got to tell your kids and reaffirm, like, hey, didn't quite make it in the basket, but hey, great pass. And we do that stupid drill where I put a ball card out and I will tell my girls or my boys, like, you guys are supposed
I
to
grew up
leave
learning
at
that same
4:30. If you want to go home, I need 10 balls in that cart, and everybody is serve receiving, not just my outsides. Everybody
classic drill,
position,
man.
like
My coach used to do
liberos,
that. Like,
middles,
we're not moving
right
on
sides.
until you guys hit this many in this card right now. I was like, all right.
There was a
Exactly.
moment where I thought about buying a basket, and I was like, "All right, Keone. I was like, Keone, you're taking this too seriously.
You're going way too deep, buddy.
Just put some tape on the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing I say that's pretty different for me is I look at the fluidity of how their athleticism presents themselves as far as that goes, because those kids are easier to teach platform, defense, serve receive, how to hit than the kids that have a little bit less comfortability with their body athletically, whatever level that they're at. A perfect example that I had this morning, our new freshman came in, and I have a girl that's probably like, 5'8", 5'9", and she's been playing middle, of course, because at her age that, big, tall, athletic girl has to play middle. God forbid we take some time with her natural platform ability to teach her and develop her how to be an outside. So that's what we did this morning because it was platform passing day. And lo and behold, because she's a great athlete and is very coachable, in about like 15, 20 minutes, she was able to hang in and do okay and serve receive. So, I mean, that's probably the move that we're going to make for her. And starting from day one, that development cycle, like you said, it's going to be rough her first year out, but throw up on varsity. She's going to get exposed to a lot of really great serves. She's going to learn how to get out on the pin, and she's going to be a great outside for us. Like, that's just how that's going to go. And the only other big thing for me, I have one rule for my pins. I really don't care where you hit it. I don't care where you tip it. My pins do not hit to zone 6 because all the data tells us that's where the ball goes.
Right.
And all the data tells us that's where the ball gets dug. That's why I moved my libero to middle back, because
Oh my god!
sure enough, you can tell your teams to hit one, hit high hands, hit the split, hit cross, hit line. When in doubt, they hit straight in front of where they're looking, right over the block, right into zone 6. And very rarely do we come across teams that don't do that. And we offensively this year, I think we'll be able to, at least my team will be able to kind of bang with more teams in that sense, because they have that foundation of the libero playing that middle back position and being so flexible. But that's my only big rule with outsides. Serve receive wise, completely agree with everything the other 2 gentlemen have said. 3 gentlemen, 4 gentlemen, whatever, have said in terms of that. Very, very much a
It's
big
okay.
role.
You don't have to include me. It's
Sorry,
okay.
Keone,
Nolan didn't include me. It's great.
But yeah, it is it's like no one said though. It is a secondary, if not greater, version of your libero. Especially, I would consider the 0-2 spot more vital, and that's the secondary outside, because they're the ones that I view primarily as the more bulk. I don't expect my 0-2s to score as much as my 0-1. My 0-1, I'm okay with living with 3 rotations of kind of shaky serve receive if they have to pass the ball, because they can clean it up because they're better athletes. My 0-2, I expect to be basically another libero in the jersey when it comes to that, and being able to deliver those balls constantly so we can run middles or right side combos, whatever you like. And so there is kind of variance between that with the outside position. You get kids that are more ball control friendly, so you put them as that secondary, so when the front one's there, they get more opportunities, and then et cetera, et cetera. You can kind of hide the other one. Well, that one's the primary passer, and those kinds of things. But yeah, so I mean, those are things at least that I look for. I'm glad we got into hearing some of these things. There was some refreshing stuff from me to kind of take in as a coach and all that kind of stuff.
Also, I did want to add, because I know Jared said it in passing before he had to dip out. The garbage man analogy. For those of you out there who don't quite understand why they're the garbage man. When everything goes to shit, when you receive a ball, when you dig a ball, who does the set go to? Outsides, you are the ones looked at the most, and you get the highest volume of sets, that you need to do something with what is considered trash on your side of the court. So understand that when you're an outside hitter and you get the ball, most of the time, half the time, it's not always just because the setter likes you. It's because the setter has to set you, and you need to do something worthwhile with it.
I know you guys did pet peeves already, but God, I don't know if you've ever played with somebody who was like this on the outside, but you ever have somebody who was just like, oh, it's not a perfect set, so they just basically underneath the net, or
bad
like
body
they
language.
just like don't even go for it. Like, oh, I hate that.
I bench
so much.
You're not there
100%.
to just get a kill on every single set you get. You're there to make something better out of what you just got, and you're 90% of the time the one that it has to go to. So just understand that, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish I could explain that to my team. Just like passing is the
Tell them to listen to
key
this
to
episode.
staying on this. That's what I always tell them. Like, passing is the key to staying on this team. Like, that's one thing. I'm like, all of you hit about the same relatively. You know what I mean? It's not great, but I'm like, the passing is the reason why you either play or you don't play. So
really, though,
that's exactly. And the higher you go, that's how the game is. It's serve and pass, right? Like then, even this past
you can be a
season,
great hitter, but a shit passer, and you won't see the court at all.
And that was the problem with our 0-2 spot. At least the most recent example I have is for my boys team. No, not some names. No, we had a kiddo that was 5'7", 5'8" at best, and he was just a better ball control kid. And while we lost a lot with him front row, height wise, he didn't make errors front row, and he could pass the ball front row because he was supposed to be our libero. So that's just kind of how that goes. Like, the higher you go, that's what you tend to see. There could be a guy that's 6'7", sitting on their bench, looking at the other guy that's 5'10", jumps 40 inches, and the guy that's 5'10's on the court because he can probably pass the ball better.
And last thing I'll note is, especially all you young guys out there, I'm sorry, there's a lot of info.
It's like
for
the
this.
fifth last thing.
I'm sorry, there's a lot. This is like the bread and butter for a coach. You know, right? This is definitely going to be on, an OnlyFans for us, right? There you go.
Surely, yeah. Get it, Keone.
Wow.
Um,
So you just skipped everything and went straight to
for
OnlyFans.
for when
Not
you
Patreon,
guys
just OnlyFans.
when you guys are looking at another team warm up, I always tell my players when you are watching another team warm up, do not look how well someone hits. Look at where they are hitting. Look at what their tendencies are. Because that's going to tell you so much more than, oh, number 10 can bounce a ball on the 10-foot line. Yeah, but half the time, what? My right side and my middle are going to be a two-man block right in front of him. He's not going to get that swing. Look where he likes to swing otherwise. If it's a bad set, if he's swinging on the back line down the to the area 1, note that. Understand that. Because it's going to service you so much more than knowing that this guy can bounce a ball whenever there's an open net. Because if bouncing a ball on an open net, hopefully it happens 1 or 2 times during that match. But you need to understand when he has the ball and there's a full defense right in front of him, what's he going to do next with it?
Exactly.
Or
Well,
girl,
ladies
sorry.
and germs, that has been another great episode of Team Huddle.
I love
we
this
are
positional
on social
series.
media. If there are things or questions about outsides that you have, hit us up there at some point because we're all on the internet. Keone, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at KONEE. That's KAYOHKNEE.
And Nolan Chang.
You guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at NolanKYT, NOLANKYT.
All right. And you can find me on Twitter at Jalen Holston. You can find me on Instagram at ArtByJalen. And you can find me on Twitch at MochaThanos_LGG. Well, I've been me, and you've been you. And that was another great episode. So good vibes and love, everybody.